Hi, I'm Robin Carey, CEO of Social Media Today, and I'd like to welcome you to our interview today with Jay Bartlett, who is Vice President, Global Digital Marketing for Xerox. We're going to be talking about big brand theory. And Jay, Xerox is a brand that is a venerable, decades-old one, but it's going through huge change and transition right now. What role is digital playing in helping you to reposition the brand?
It's a significant role that digital's playing. It is. It's an exciting brand to be a part of. I've been working with them for many, many years. Started with an advertising background, and we began in advertising and some digital play. But digital today is much bigger than just having a website and advertising. It's a full ecosystem. That's a lot of this being driven through social and redefinitions around content marketing. We're a brand, as you mentioned, going through significant transformation as we move from a hardware company, or known as a copier company, into one that's a global leader in business process outsourcing, or business process services as we refer to it. It requires an incredible amount of touch points today in the marketplace. The days of kind of doing mass communications and advertising, those are a little bit behind us, because it's hard to kind of do that and hit people with the type of cadence that's required today to change their perception on what Xerox means. I've been reading up on this quite a bit lately, and I've seen upwards of 22 touch points needed to kind of get people to take an action or to kind of change their perception on something. Digital plays a phenomenal role in that, because it's something that you can maintain. It's something that you can be consistently connecting with people. And if you do it right, and I think we still have a lot of room for improvement at Xerox, but when done right, when social and web and content, when it's all fully integrated and kind of singing off the same song sheet, I truly think that the transition from that copier company to a leader in business services is going to be a little bit more fast-paced.
So as you move into 2014, we're all thinking 2014 already, and by the time this airs, it may already be 2014. What are the key metrics that you're using to plan to get you where you want to get?
So we've got a lot of metrics. I mean, this is, welcome to the world of digital, where you're completely surrounded in analytics. It's certainly something that I've been paying close attention to over the last 12 months in particular, because as we've heard recently, even together at an event recently, we've heard that sometimes you can get empty calories through those analytics. And I strongly believe in that. We've got to find the right analytics that align with the business objectives and try to filter out the noise. There's the nice to know analytics. For us, because we're transitioning our brand, it's really important for us to get the reach, the scale that we're looking for. It's very important for us to drive awareness. Really looking at trying to build a story and telling chapters of a story, and it goes back to those touch points that I mentioned before. So we're definitely looking at engagement. That's almost our KPI. One of our single KPIs is engagement, because that also shows virality or downstream distribution as well.
But how to define engagement? Because I think that's one of those really nebulous terms out there. I don't know that there's a common definition.
There isn't. I would say it's any kind of two-way dialogue in any capacity for us at Xerox. It does differ by platform. It differs by either social or web, but on the web, it might be a slightly different definition around kind of form fills or different interactions versus likes and comments and shares and social. We have developed a glossary, if you will, of our own analytics, and we roll these up into monthly reports. We've got a monthly dashboard. We share it with senior management, and we show our progression. And we overlay all of that hard data and what we're tracking with brand tracking studies, research that's been around forever, and we kind of continue to monitor that.
Is that working? I mean, can you put those two together?
We have. We've been seeing, brand tracking studies don't allow you to kind of point your finger at any one particular initiative, because it's kind of holistic to the brand.
Right.
But certain marketing communications programs are kind of going out in a particular cadence, and you can kind of monitor the shifts and the changes. We've been making some pretty good progress. There's been other brands, IBM in particular, who went through a very similar, major shift many, many years ago.
Sure.
They didn't really have the power of digital at their hands. They had to do a significant amount of mass communications back then. those types of budgets for that kind of traditional advertising don't exist for many brands today. And so,
which is a good thing, right?
I think it is. I think it is. And I think most people today actually don't necessarily want to be marketed to or advertised to. I think that's one of the fundamental changes that's happening in the marketplace today. And that's why I think some of those dollars are either shifting or priorities are being looked at in a slightly different way. Digital can play a big role in that for sure.
But are you resourcing more now towards investing in the technology, for example, and are you bringing stuff that, I know with IBM, since you mentioned them, there's been a shift away not only from big broadcast spend, but towards more in-house capability?
Yeah, so that's, that starts to tap into something that's a bit more cultural. And I think we have some work to do on that at Xerox. And not to keep harping on IBM, but they were the ones I think that coined, moving from mass communications to mass communicators. And I truly believe in that. We've got to find our advocates internally around the world to help us tell our story. We're scraping the surface on that right now. So we've got a lot of work to do on that. But yeah, so that's kind of the way forward. We've got to find ways to kind of do that culture change. It doesn't happen overnight. So you got to handhold, you got to work with people. You start with influencers because it would be not, from the top down, it would kind of infiltrate into teams and geographies. So that's kind of the approach right now.
Yeah, makes total sense. What about on the back end? I mean, you said that you've had some great results with brand awareness. What about conversions? Are you able to tie some of your digital back to actual conversions now?
So we certainly are on the web side. The web today at Xerox, and again, like many brands, it's much further down the purchase cycle. It's a much different user experience. They're a little bit more nurtured, if you will. From the social media perspective, we're being cautious with that. We're finding that social media is growing up very fast, and maybe a little too fast, because what you start to get is the pressures from senior management saying, well, what kind of revenue is it driving? Right. It's important for us to step back from this and look at it as the ecosystem that it is, which is you can't just look at it in silos as individual components. Look at it as the full picture and where people are in the journey. As long as you buy into that concept of multiple touch points, then you can buy into the concept that you're talking to people at different stages in different ways along the way. And so you have to measure that aligned with where they are in that funnel.
What about your sales force? So one of the things that we've found, and it's been reported, that in B2B, which Xerox is a B2B company, that 60% of buyers have pretty much made their decision before they even talk to a salesperson. How are you able to bring your sales staff into the digital?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of that particular statistic. We use it a lot within Xerox. And I got to be honest with you, the overwhelming majority of what we do in marketing communications around the world at Xerox is after that 60%. That's where social and content marketing can play such a significant role. And it's not just us social media practitioners, which there isn't a lot of us, to be honest with you, around the world. We can use our sales organizations and help them understand this, sell the concept of social selling to them. We've been doing some road shows with LinkedIn with many of our sales organizations and selling that concept of connections, the types of marketing. CEB, they're an entity that did some concepts around the dynamics of how you sell today is completely different. So there's some interesting research that the CEB has done around selling. And
Corporate Executive Board?
Yes, yep. So there's some really interesting, dynamics there. That's part of that cultural shift, though. Most of our sales executives kind of just know how they've sold for many, many, many years. And so this is an entirely new concept. I think it's fairly easy when we get new hires in, college graduates into the sales organization. They're a little bit more digital savvy. I think it's a little bit of an easier progression with them. Some that have been around forever and have done kind of relationship marketing or sales, if you will, it's a little harder to crack the nut. But we're working with them quite a bit.
Cool. So Jay, you mentioned that you started out in advertising. I'm sure you, like every other rising star in marketing, has read all the data about how the CMO of the future, the marketer of the future, has got to code as well as he or she can make a campaign. How did you're obviously not technophobic. How have you sort of personally grown with what's going on in the market?
You know, what's really interesting is it is the role of the CMO and how much it's changed. Krista Carone was our recent CMO at Xerox, and I learned quite a bit from her. What you learn today around a CMO is that there's so much more connected to the actual business and to the overall company strategy. It's, again, the days of kind of developing communications or campaigns and putting money behind those. It's different. What we're talking about in digital and what we're talking about in marketing communications today is so much more aligned with the business and the corporate strategy, if you will. So it's a much different role. I've got a much different perspective today on things. You know, I'm really thrilled with what's been going on in marketing communications overall. I love where just in the last 12, 18 months things have been going. And I'm really looking forward to what's next, as this is a very fast-moving train, if you will.
Yeah, we're having fun, aren't we? Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jay. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.